Have you ever reached the end of a day, a week, or even a year, and felt a quiet, gnawing sense of dissatisfaction? You were busy, certainly. Your calendar was full, your phone was buzzing, you were responding, reacting, moving. But were you advancing? Or were you merely being swept along by the currents of a life that feels increasingly out of your control? You yearn for focus, for a sense of command over your own impulses, for the inner strength to see a goal through to its end. You long for the quiet power of self-discipline. It is perhaps the most sought after, yet most elusive, of all human virtues in our modern age. We are surrounded by a culture of distraction, an endless buffet of easy comforts and instant gratifications designed to hijack our attention and weaken our resolve. Our focus is fractured, our willpower is depleted, and our best intentions often crumble by lunchtime. We download apps, read articles about life hacks, and promise ourselves that tomorrow will be different. But the fundamental change we seek remains just out of reach. What if the answer wasn't in a new app or a modern productivity trend? What if the blueprint for building an unconquerable will was forged nearly 2,000 years ago, not in a quiet monastery, but in the heart of the storm? Imagine a man who held the fate of the known world in his hands. A man who commanded legions, who navigated treacherous political conspiracies, who endured the devastation of a deadly plague that ravaged his empire, and who spent years on the frozen battlefields of the northern frontier, warding off barbarian hordes. This man was the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. By all accounts, he should have been crushed by the weight of his responsibilities. He should have been a victim of circumstance, a man of rage, anxiety, and despair. Yet, he was not. He was known as the Philosopher King, a ruler praised for his justice, his temperance, and his profound sense of duty. How did he maintain his equilibrium amidst such relentless chaos? The answer lies in a tattered collection of personal notes he never intended for publication, a journal we now know as Meditations. It is here, in these raw and honest reflections, that we find his secret weapon, the practical, life-altering philosophy of Stoicism. For Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism was not an academic pursuit. It was a daily practice, a mental training regimen for forging an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that could withstand any external assault. At the very core of this fortress was the bedrock of self-discipline. This is not a historical lecture. This is a practical guide. Today, we will walk together through the 10 foundational Stoic principles that Marcus Aurelius used to cultivate his legendary discipline. We will move beyond the surface-level quotes and delve into the deep, psychological truths that make this ancient wisdom so startlingly relevant today. This is your invitation to stop chasing fleeting motivation and start building something far more enduring, a disciplined mind. A mind that is calm, clear, purposeful, and free. If you are ready to stop being ruled by your impulses and start designing your life with intention, then stay with me. The journey to your inner citadel begins now. Begin with your purpose, the work of a human being. What is the first thought that enters your mind when the alarm clock shrieks, dragging you from the peace of slumber? For many, it is a groan. A sense of weary obligation. The day ahead presents itself not as an opportunity, but as a long list of tasks to be endured, emails to answer, meetings to attend, chores to complete. We rise, but we do so without a compass, without a why to guide our actions. And a day without a why is a day surrendered to distraction and impulse. Marcus Aurelius knew this internal struggle intimately. He was an emperor, but he was also a man. In the cold, dark mornings on the German frontier, wrapped in his cloak, he too felt the allure of the warm bed. He wrote to himself, a personal admonishment that has echoed through the centuries. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. Why should I be resentful, if I am going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or was I made for this, to huddle under the blankets and stay warm? This is the absolute foundation of Stoic discipline. It does not begin with a to-do list or a set of rules. It begins with purpose. Before you can discipline your actions, you must first clarify your intention. Marcus wasn't talking about the job of an emperor. He was talking about the work of a human being. The Stoics believed that just as a bee's purpose is to make honey and a vine's purpose is to bear fruit, a human being's purpose is to live a life of reason and virtue, and to contribute to the common good of humanity. This is a radical departure from our modern conception of purpose, which is often tied to a dream job, a passion, or a personal ambition. A Stoic purpose is not something you find out there in the world, it is something you define from within. It is the commitment to be a certain kind of person, a person of integrity, justice, courage, and wisdom, regardless of your external circumstances. Without this internal compass, self-discipline becomes a form of self-punishment. You force yourself to wake up early, to go to the gym, to eat healthy, but these actions feel hollow because they are not connected to a deeper meaning. They are merely tasks on a checklist. But when your actions are infused with purpose, discipline is no longer a chore, it becomes an expression of your highest self. Consider the difference. One person drags themselves to work simply to earn a paycheck. They procrastinate, they cut corners, and they live for the weekend. Their work is a burden. Another person, perhaps in the very same job, sees their work as an opportunity to practice virtue. They can be diligent, honest, helpful to their colleagues, and patient with difficult clients. Their work, no matter how mundane, becomes a training ground for their character. They are not just doing a job, they are doing the work of a human being. This is why the first step to building unshakable discipline is to define your purpose for the day, each and every day. This doesn't have to be a grandiose, world-changing mission. It can be simple, yet profound. A practical exercise: define your daily virtue. Tonight, before you go to sleep, or tomorrow, in that quiet moment before the world rushes in, take a piece of paper and answer this question: what is my purpose for tomorrow? Frame your answer not in terms of what you will achieve, but in terms of who you will be. Choose one virtue to be your guiding star for the day. Perhaps today, your purpose is to practice patience. When you're stuck in traffic, or when a colleague is slow to respond, you will see it not as an annoyance, but as a chance to train your patience. Perhaps your purpose is to practice kindness. In every interaction, you will look for an opportunity to offer a word of encouragement or a moment of genuine listening. Or perhaps your purpose is to practice diligence. You will approach your work not with resentment, but with focused, honest effort, taking pride in a job well done. Write it down. Today, I will be patient. Today, I will listen more than I speak. Today, I will focus on the task at hand without complaint. When you do this, you transform the day from a random series of events into a coherent, meaningful journey. Every moment becomes an opportunity to live in alignment with your chosen purpose. The traffic jam is no longer a source of rage, it is your Stoic gymnasium. The difficult conversation is not something to be avoided, it is your chance to practice courage. Discipline, then, ceases to be about white-knuckling your way through temptation. It becomes a joyful expression of your commitment to yourself. You are not forcing yourself to do something you hate. You are choosing, freely and willingly, to act in accordance with your highest values. This is the source of a will that does not break, because it is anchored in the profound, unshakable clarity of purpose. Before you can conquer the world, you must first give your own life a reason. Master your inner kingdom, count on yourself. We live in a world that teaches us to look outward for validation, for guidance, for happiness. We are conditioned to outsource our sense of self. We check our phones for likes, we ask for opinions on what we should wear, what we should do, who we should be. We place the keys to our emotional well-being in the pockets of others, and then wonder why we feel so powerless. The Stoics offered a revolutionary and liberating alternative: radical self-reliance. This is not about arrogance or refusing to accept help. It is about a profound shift in understanding where your true power lies. Marcus Aurelius, in the solitude of his tent, reminded himself of this fundamental truth. The cucumber is bitter. Then throw it out. There are brambles in the path. Then go around them. That's all you need to know. Nothing more. Don't go on and ask, why were things like this ever made? This simple passage contains the essence of Stoic empowerment. The world will present you with bitter cucumbers and thorny paths. That is its nature. People will be unfair, circumstances will be unfavorable, plans will go awry. These are external events, and they are not under your control. Complaining about them, questioning why they exist, or allowing them to dictate your inner state is a waste of your precious energy. It is, in Stoic terms, an act of insanity. The only domain where you have absolute, unassailable control is your own mind, your hegemonican, or ruling faculty. You control your judgments, your responses, your choices. To count on yourself is to recognize that your inner kingdom is the only one you can, and must, truly rule. A disciplined person does not seek to control the world, they seek to master themselves. Consider the life of a modern professional. Their day is a minefield of external variables. A critical project is delayed because of another department. A promotion is given to someone else. The stock market dips, affecting their retirement savings. The reactive person is a ship tossed on these waves. Their mood rises and falls with each piece of news. They are consumed by frustration, by blame, by anxiety. They have abdicated their own throne. The Stoic, however, understands that the events themselves are neutral. It is their judgment about the events that creates suffering. The project is delayed. An opportunity to practice patience and focus on what can be done. The promotion was lost. A chance to reflect on one's own performance, to seek feedback, and to demonstrate resilience. The market dipped. A reminder that wealth is an external, and true security comes from an inner character that cannot be bought or sold. This is the mindset of true accountability. It is the end of blame. When you truly count on yourself, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances. You are the protagonist of your life story, and you always have the power to choose the next sentence. This creates a powerful foundation for self-discipline. When you are disciplined in pursuit of a goal, setbacks are inevitable. If your resolve is dependent on smooth sailing, it will shatter at the first sign of a storm. But if your resolve is rooted in your own choices and responses, it becomes unbreakable. You don't control whether you get the client, but you control the quality of your proposal and the diligence of your follow-up. You don't control whether your manuscript gets published, but you control the number of hours you spend writing and editing each day. The Stoic finds their satisfaction not in the outcome, which is often out of their hands, but in the effort, in the knowledge that they acted with virtue and gave their absolute best to the things they could control. A practical exercise, the Journal of Self-Command. This exercise is designed to retrain your brain to shift its focus from the external to the internal. For 1 week, keep a Journal of Self-Command. Each evening, reflect on the day and divide your experiences into 2 columns. Column 1, what was beyond my control? List the events and circumstances that occurred that you had no direct power over. Example, a train delay made me late. My boss was in a bad mood. It rained during my planned walk. Column 2, how did I choose to respond? For each item in the first column, write down how you responded and, more importantly, how a Stoic would have ideally responded. Example, for the train delay, I became angry and spent the ride fuming. An ideal response would have been to accept the situation calmly and use the extra time to read or listen to a podcast. For my boss's mood, I took it personally and felt anxious all day. The ideal response would have been to recognize that their mood is their own, and to focus on performing my work with excellence, regardless of their disposition. This is not an exercise in self-criticism. It is an exercise in awareness. By consistently and honestly observing your patterns of reaction, you begin to create a space between the external event and your internal response. In that space lies your freedom. It is in that space that you learn to stop being a pawn of fortune and start becoming the master of your own mind. When you can truly count on yourself, your discipline becomes independent of the world's chaos. It becomes a force generated from within, reliable and unshakable. The unrelenting rhythm of duty, show up every day. Intensity is seductive. We love stories of heroic, all-night efforts, of sudden bursts of inspiration that lead to a breakthrough. We are drawn to the idea of the grand gesture. But Marcus Aurelius, a man whose life was a series of relentless demands, knew that greatness is not forged in a single, fiery moment. It is crafted in the quiet, unglamorous, and unrelenting rhythm of daily effort. Discipline is not about having a few great days. It is about showing up even on the days you feel you have nothing to give. It is about consistency. He wrote, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." This is the philosophy of the stonemason, slowly and methodically chipping away at a block of marble. Each individual tap of the hammer and chisel seems insignificant. From day to day, the change is almost imperceptible. There are no fireworks, no applause. It is tedious, repetitive work. But over months and years, an intricate statue emerges from the stone. The masterpiece is not the result of one powerful blow, but of a million steady, consistent ones. Our modern world fights against this wisdom. It promises shortcuts, hacks, and overnight success. It encourages us to chase the dopamine rush of novelty and intensity. We start a new diet with extreme fervor, go to the gym twice a day for a week, and then burn out, reverting to our old habits. We feel a surge of inspiration and write 10 pages of a novel, only to abandon it for the next 6 months. The Stoics understood that this reliance on fleeting motivation is a recipe for failure. True discipline is a system, not a feeling. It is the commitment to show up and do the work, regardless of whether you feel inspired, tired, bored, or discouraged. This is tied to the Stoic concept of kathekon, which translates roughly to duty or appropriate action. For the Stoics, duty was not a grim, joyless burden. It was the natural function of a rational being. The duty of a doctor is to heal. The duty of a parent is to nurture. The duty of a writer is to write. Showing up to perform your duty, your work, is not something that requires a special mood. It is simply what you do. It is your nature. When you internalize this mindset, you liberate yourself from the tyranny of your own emotions. You no longer need to feel like it to act. Your commitment is to the process, not to the mood of the moment. Think of the professional athlete. Do they only train on the days they feel strong and motivated? Of course not. They train on the days they are sore, on the days they are tired, on the days they would rather be anywhere else. They understand that championship titles are won in the thousands of hours of unglamorous practice, long before they ever step into the arena. Their discipline is a habit, an identity, not a whim. This is the kind of resilience we must cultivate in our own lives. The path to mastering a skill, building a business, or transforming your character is paved with countless ordinary, unremarkable days. The real test of your discipline is not what you do when you are feeling inspired, but what you do on the Tuesday afternoon when you are feeling drained and the work seems endless. Do you honor your commitment? Do you lay one more brick? A practical exercise, the non-negotiable minimum. The key to building the habit of consistency is to start small, so small that it is almost impossible to say no. This exercise is about defining your non-negotiable minimum for a key goal. Choose one goal, select a single, important goal you wish to make progress on. This could be writing a book, learning a new language, getting physically fit, or practicing meditation. Define your perfect day action. What would you do on a day where you are full of energy and motivation? Example, for fitness, I would go for a 5-mile run and do a 30-minute strength workout. Define your non-negotiable minimum. Now, shrink that action down to its smallest possible version, something you could do even on your absolute worst day. This should take no more than 5 minutes. Writing a book, write 1 sentence. Learning a language, review 5 flashcards. Getting fit, do 1 push-up. Meditation, take 3 conscious breaths. This may sound ridiculously simple, and that is precisely the point. The goal here is not to make dramatic progress in a single day. The goal is to never break the chain. For the next 30 days, your only rule is to meet this non-negotiable minimum every single day, without exception. On good days, you will likely do much more. You'll write the full chapter, do the full workout. But on the terrible days, the days you are sick, exhausted, or utterly demoralized, you will still do your one push-up. You will still write your one sentence. By doing so, you are sending a powerful message to your subconscious mind: I am the kind of person who shows up. My commitment is not dependent on my mood. My discipline is who I am. You are not just building momentum on your goal, you are forging an identity. You are becoming the stonemason, content with the rhythm of the daily work, knowing that with each small, consistent action, you are building a life of substance and creating a masterpiece. We have journeyed together through the mental landscape of a Roman emperor, exploring the 10 pillars that supported his unconquerable will. We have seen that self-discipline, in the Stoic sense, is not a rigid, joyless pursuit of self-denial. It is a vibrant, empowering, and deeply rational system for living a life of meaning and tranquility, even amidst the unrelenting chaos of the world. Let us briefly walk back through the gates of the inner citadel we have mapped out. We began with purpose, the foundational act of defining our why each morning, transforming every day from a series of obligations into a training ground for virtue. We then embraced radical self-reliance, learning to count on ourselves by focusing on our inner kingdom of choices and responses, thereby liberating ourselves from the tyranny of external events we cannot control. We committed to showing up every day, understanding that discipline is forged not in grand, heroic bursts, but in the quiet, unrelenting rhythm of daily consistency, laying one brick at a time. We learned to practice voluntary hardship, strategically stepping out of our comfort zones to inoculate ourselves against misfortune and cultivate a deep gratitude for what we have. We mastered the dichotomy of control, the art of discerning what is ours to command and what is not, conserving our energy for the battles we can actually win. We chose to never play the victim, embracing amor fati, a love of our fate, and learning to see every obstacle not as a barrier, but as the raw material for our own strength and growth. We cultivated temperance through delayed gratification, mastering our impulses and prioritizing long-term fulfillment over the fleeting allure of short-term pleasure. We learned to ignore the naysayers, grounding our self-worth in our own character and principles, rendering us immune to the baseless judgments of the crowd. We sought out wisdom by choosing to emulate the virtuous, using the lives of great individuals as a compass to guide our own moral development. And finally, we created a feedback loop for continuous improvement by reviewing our day, holding a gentle, honest conversation with ourselves each evening to learn, adjust, and grow. These 10 principles are not a disconnected list of tips. They are an interconnected ecosystem. Your purpose gives you the strength to show up. The dichotomy of control makes it possible to ignore naysayers. Reviewing your day helps you refine your purpose. Together, they form a holistic operating system for the human mind, designed for resilience, clarity, and effective action. The world will continue to be a chaotic and unpredictable place. It will always present you with temptations, distractions, and hardships. The Stoics did not offer a promise of an easy life. They offered something far more valuable, the tools to build an inner strength that makes the difficulty of life irrelevant. The journey of discipline is not a destination you arrive at one day. There is no final graduation. It is a daily practice, a moment-to-moment choice. It is the choice to respond rather than react. The choice to act on principle rather than impulse. The choice to build your character, action by action, day by day. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, saw himself as a simple soldier in the service of virtue, a humble student of philosophy, constantly striving to be better than he was the day before. If he, with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, could find the time to practice, then so can we. In the most important project you will ever undertake, the crafting of your own life, you are not merely a player. You are the architect. The principles we have explored today are your blueprints. Now, it is time to pick up your tools and begin the work. Thank you for walking this path with us today, Your commitment to listen and reflect is the first, most crucial step on any journey of transformation. If this exploration of Stoic wisdom has resonated with you, if it has sparked a desire to build your own inner citadel, then help us share this timeless knowledge. Like this video to signal that these ideas still matter in our modern world. Subscribe to Be Audio and join our community of seekers, dedicated to living lives of purpose, resilience, and tranquility. And now, for your first act of intentional reflection, go to the comments below and answer this one question: which of these 10 Stoic principles will you choose to practice tomorrow morning? By writing it down, you make a commitment not just to us, but to yourself. Your journey has already begun. Live with virtue. Live with discipline. And we will see you in the next reflection.